Hey everybody, welcome to the battalion. Uh, Decided I was going to do an impromptu skirmish tonight. Uh, so I thought I'd jump on here. I'm going to be doing it and hopefully someone jumps on, and if not, then we're still going to go through and talk about it, right? So I happened to be down at my buddy's tattoo shop, and he surprised me with a bottle of Crown Royal XO we have right here. And surprisingly enough, I haven't had it. So that's or unpremeditated fighting. Um, Not premeditated. I had no thought about doing this. So all I did was say, hey, okay, I'm going to go through and figure out what I can go against it and so much. So I thought, okay, well, hey, Woodinville, we got a battle of the border, right? But Washington, and we got Crown Royal right there in Canada. So right at the battle of the border, that's why I put skirmish at the border. Cognac coming in at an 80 proof, or the Crown Royal coming in at proof, barreled in cognac. Woodinville comes in at 90 proof, and it's they pair really good with a cigar. So I'm going to put them head to head. I haven't even cracked them yet, so let's crack these guys. Get a feel for what we're doing here. So this one's being a little pretentious. Doesn't want to go very good. But nonetheless, I've got an answer down here. So yeah, this is Woodinville rye, or not rye. This is the Woodinville Straight special limited release bourbon whiskey finished in port casks. So we're going to see how it stands up against cognac casks from the Crown guys up in Canada. So we got this here. I get this one cracked. So starting to get things figured out here at the channel, right? So, and that's what the thing is. You're trying to go through and understand a little bit more, balance your time between work and family and your passion for bourbon and whiskey and educating people. So probably my favorite thing to do is to educate and talk to people, help them understand that maybe the reason why you think this is hot and terrible, and I don't know how you taste anything other than gasoline or alcohol. I usually just tell them, I say, hey man, you're just drinking it wrong. Like anything, you have to go through and give it some time. So you want to give a good effort and that stuff, and be perfectly okay with how people drink it. Doesn't matter how you drink it. So this is the Crown XO. And you can see there that it says that it's finished in cognac. So we're going to get these poured. I actually kind of liked it, though. That was pretty easy. I didn't have to worry about breaking anything, right? It's actually pretty nice. So put that right here. Get this set back over here. I'm going to put this out of the way a little bit more so I have a little bit more room. And that's a Woodinville right here. Oh, nice cork. That's actually a pretty nice cork. Just a nice overall thing here. So let's get the Woodinville in here. And who knows where the night may go. Because sometimes I get going and talking and drinking and sipping, and then I start blending and I start doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So you can have really good stuff and be like, why would you blend that? Well, why wouldn't you? That's the thing, right? Boy, I'll tell you what, on the eyes, there is a distinct difference between the Crown and the man, like way different. So looking at them, I'm sure you can see it there. You can easily see it there, right? So the one right here is the crown, and this dark, beautiful look. That is just really pretty. That's a pretty drink. That's the Woodinville, right? So on the eyes, right now, Woodinville. Um, Although this doesn't look bad, but and I, be honest with you, I didn't even look up enough to find out what the age statements are on these. But boy, that looks pretty. That looks kind of young. I mean, I know they charcoal filter about everything they do, but all right, let's go to the nose on this guy. Well, kind of light, very kind of fruity. Maybe a minty light fruit, maybe like a plum, kind of somewhere along like a plum, a minty plum. You pull up you pull up this weird little chocolate. There is some chocolate in this. Huh. Yeah, I'm definitely pulling like a mint, like maybe a York pepper patty type of thing, right? So you got that mint along with chocolate. I'm not hitting the nose. Oh, so the Woodinville, bigger bouquet on there. I mean, that's downright floral. A little bit sweeter. Smells definitely a little bit sweeter, but I would kind of expect that the way it's filtered and stuff. Pull more of kind of like a maple gum. Have you ever you ever chewed on the maple on a maple tree? I just got this weird note of like Coca-Cola. So like a flat Coca-Cola. Well, so far on the nose, I would still give it to Crown's starting to turn into shrapnel. What I mean by that is it's just a term we have to battalion of the legs start turning into like water spots instead of like this steady stream around with nice legs down with a nice thick viscosity coming across it. And the wood's holding up pretty strong. I'm not seeing the same spattering. So, and if you ever follow me, I always am looking at the legs and the viscosity, how the alcohol is coming down the glass and what's happening with it. So I always do that. Never a time that I'm not doing that. Color looks great. Eyes, legs, nice bouquet. Although Crown's nose wasn't bad at all. It is apparent. So, hey, cheers. Man, my first initial thought when it came in there was like velvet. That was silky, silky smooth. So just really a smooth drink. And it tastes like it's a little 180. Now that might be because it was my first one, right? I went through and did my chew. I'm still pulling some, so I always try to give it a little bit of time when I do this. I definitely have some sugary notes. I hate when I say I know my buddy Dan is going to watch this. Yeah, you get a really nice flavor to the tip of your tongue that goes through. Um, am I live? It's hard to tell. Nothing worse than getting notes come up from YouTube saying uh, your connection is unstable or whatever. I'm on a landline, so I can't imagine there's anything with my connection. I mean, we do have some bad weather here, but I think everywhere in the United States has bad weather right now. So to get back to the taste, I wouldn't say that you get like a black licorice, but you know, it's not far from it. You get that kind of that it's a bold syrup. Um, man, it's pretty good though. I could pair this with a cigar as is. I wouldn't have to blend it. I wouldn't add anything to it. Um, I could see you definitely getting into the danger zone there, right? So when we say danger zone, it's like you can go through and you can sit dangerous, but man, it's pretty good. I wouldn't say it has a great finish. It hangs around for a little bit and says hello, but you know, doesn't ramble like I do. A little bit of a finish coming down in here with a hug, not a bold hug, but a decent chest warmer, right? All right, let's get a drink here. All right, Woodinville. So I set this. I set my crown over here to the side because I'm going to come back full frontal assault, which is my first tasting. I do my eyes, my nose. I get those things ready to go, and then I'm back to see what's changed. Has some as it evaporates, you know, you get a lot more openness, and as it's breathing, it starts to take on a new personality. So you want to take time to get to know it. So we'll come back to it, and we'll do a second pour tasting against them each other. So Woodinville, man, it's like flat Coca-Cola. I'm telling you. Yeah, that's like a really gosh, that's a silky smooth molasses. Um, what I mean by that is that it, you know, it comes in there. It's surprisingly though, it doesn't have bite. There's more bite in the crown. Uh, I would absolutely think that the crown was a higher proof than this. I like that big mouth feel, tingly, burny sensation that comes down. And maybe it was because the crown hit me on the first on my palate. Not sure, but both of these would be a good if you were looking to say, hey, you know, I'm going to go have a cigar and I'm going to have something with it. You could do either one of these with that. Man, there's no bite in that. That is, for a lack of better terms, because I hate saying smooth. That's smooth. That's just a really smooth drinker. You get the wood notes. You definitely get more oak than I did at all on the crown. I get that little bit of saliva kicking back up there in the back of my tongue. I'm pulling on like a weird cherry, like I'm getting a cherry note on this. Yeah, there's like a weird thing where it's like I still get this cherry and this molassesy kind of feel. Somewhere in there, I'm pulling charred sugar, like what you would have on the top of a creme brulee or whatever. You know, when they go through and they torch it. There's a little bit of that going on in there too. Encrusted sugar, molasses, char, definitely pulling up some oak. These are both very, very easy drinking whiskeys for sure. On just taste alone, overall mouth feels, finish. Woodinville. No doubt about it. For me, I would pick Woodinville over the Crown. In this case, I'm doing Crown XO, mostly because it just gives this really big, broad. This big flavor profile. It's dark. It's rich. It feels old. I'd have to look at the age statement, but it feels old. It feels like maybe it's at least 6 years. The Crown, when I tasted it, it's always such a hard thing when you're dealing with the people that go through and do the charcoal filtering and that stuff, because it does smooth it out, but it also strips some stuff, some key notes that you might pick up on. It is straight danger. I can tell you now, that is a dangerous drink. It's good. It's smooth. I personally, Woodinville, let's face it, right? We're talking about Washington. Washington's been no stranger to skirmishes lately. Canadians are really happy and nice. Not surprising. I'm not surprised at all that Woodinville won this skirmish. Got a little bit more heat up there at that border. So I'm going to let my palate sit here for a second. In the meantime, I plan on going through and having these as a regular thing on my channel. I'll get my channel completely set up and scheduled now that I'm able to go studio live on YouTube. I've got all my new equipment in, got my new webcams. I have a new computer, but I think it needs upgraded because it seems like it's a little slow. The new mic and everything, so hopefully you're hearing me good. It's important that I get feedback at times because it's really hard for me, right? So I'm one of those guys that when I talk, I feel like I'm talking loud, but everybody says I'm usually talking quiet. So I talk under my breath a lot. So I have a pretty sensitive mic and I have it set that way on purpose. So hopefully picking up my audio really well. I do have a Patreon. I can't show it on here. I'm not monetized through YouTube. That's quite a lengthy process to go through and get monetized, but I definitely have a bunch of stuff coming forward. Once I get to that point, I have some good merch put up. So all that stuff is to come. So stay tuned. So I'm going to go back to these once again. This is the eyes of the Crown XO. And these are the eyes of the Woodinville. Man, are they different. So look. All right. So heading on. Whoa. That nose is changing. If you're a port drinker at all, you would have picked that up. I did not pick port smell, even though I know it's port barreled. I about face on these guys, right? The about face is just coming back to it. So I'm going to go back into the nose. This is releasing a little bit, getting a little bit more vapor on it. Kind of sarsaparilla, kind of. I feel like if I took a little bit of black licorice and cinnamon and melted them in a microwave, it's kind of what it's on to me right now. It just feels like velvet. You know, it's just so, and there'll be chocolate like Reason or one of the chocolate doves. And you see them plop it into the big melted vat and you see these waves of chocolate. That's kind of what it feels like. It feels like so silky smooth going across your tongue. But I'm not feeling a whole lot of it. I'm not getting like these big mouth feels. I'm not getting these big taste profiles. I mean, it's just pleasant. It's overall pleasant. I don't get an age statement on it. Now, we've gotten to the second pour. So my initial thought of it was a little bit hotter than the Woodinville. I think that was just because it was being introduced to my palate first. And I needed to get my palate acclimated to what was going on, right? So the legs right now are pretty good. I'm watching them run down. They're making it to the bottom from the top. Some of them are, not all of them. Some of them are turning into shrapnel. Just shit everywhere. So, okay, let's go back to, wow. That Woodinville is really, really nice. I did not pull. It literally smells like a Maduro cigar wrapper. I don't know that I would tell the difference. If you take a really rich Maduro, double Maduro, even a Negro, and smell that oily wrapper, it smells just like it. If you took that smell and rolled it up and mixed it with molasses, that's what it smells like. Hey, Jenny. Yeah, it's a YouTube live stream where I actually was on YouTube Live Studio. So I went through and did this tonight because one, my buddy Dano gave me a bottle of Crown, and I figured I should do something with it. And at the same time, I went through and needed to do a trial run and with the studio. So I figured, oh, you know what? I can do this and then I can post it afterwards anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and put it through there. Is there a delay? Does it sound okay? Are you seeing everything okay? It's kind of hard for me to tell that. So any feedback is always welcome. So getting back to this Woodinville, man, if you're a cigar smoker, you need this Woodinville port. There's no doubt about it. It's a cigar and dipped it in port. It's exactly what it smells like. For those of you that have been following me, you've heard me talk about it a few times. I was a big wine guy years ago before I was ever a whiskey bourbon guy. Through a rekindling of a relationship with my brother, our last year we got stationed together. And that's the first time I actually got to spend quality time with my brother, because when he went to the military, I was in kindergarten. So it's been nice catching up in that stuff. And we've been through learning cigars, learning bourbon, whiskey, and all that stuff. He's been doing it for me. You're talking more along the lines of 1998 is when I started getting into some of that kind of stuff and understanding a little bit more. So definitely been around a while, right? So, but the one thing that I'm pretty comfortable with is I've always been really good at pairing taste profiles, understanding what I like and how to make them something else. I'm just responding here real quick. All right. So, but yeah, as far as the skirmish goes, Team USA. If you're a person that likes to be able to take something and drink it, get through the initial burn that you're going to get, because every whiskey or every bourbon, you're going to get some burn until you get your palate acclimated and your, so you want to take those really small sips. And usually when I give little instructional classes, and I do that here locally with some friends and some friends that bring people in, and when I learn a little bit more, understanding you have to acclimate your palate. And when you're acclimating your palate, it's really small sips, just enough to start getting your tongue to wake up and say, hey, there's something new here. This hurts. You move on. And then you start pulling these profiles and these taste profiles, and then you chew it. And I try to make sure that everybody understands that when you chew, it's not mouthwash. You're not trying to rinse the germs away. You're trying to invoke all the things that you've been missing in your life across your gums and the sides of your tongue and all that stuff. So you just need to simply chew it. Yeah, I keep getting, I think there's a weird YouTube thing going on tonight, because I know that everything else I've done streaming wise is really fine. Even on my work computer, doing everything is fine. But Perry Ritter, This Is My Bourbon podcast tonight, was in the middle of a live stream, and it got so bad. So I'm not really for sure. I'm not on the Wi-Fi. I'm on my LAN, and I checked beforehand, and my LAN is pumping out fine. So I'm not for sure why there's buffering, but my apologies. Hopefully, with all the weather and storms going on, maybe it'll get a little bit better. And I will end up going through and trying to see if I can't get some mods done to my computer. So Jenny, since you're sitting there, what are you sipping on tonight? I'll bet you it's Maker's 46. All right. So Woodinville, this is, in case you got on late, right? This is Woodinville straight bourbon whiskey finished in port casks. It's a 90 proofer. It says it's a special limited release. I'm in Ohio, and some things we can get here and some things we can't. We're in Weller world. We can get Weller all day long, except for anything foolproof. Then they only do special bottle water, just a big cluster mess. So I'm for ever since they've been doing a bottle lottery. So yep, Maker's 46. Can't go wrong with Maker's 46. That's for sure. Man. So I know there's only 2 people on here, but there's going to be people that's down the road. If you are a cigar smoker, or you like some weird complexity and big taste and big bold stuff, and the nose just keeps improving, has made its mark here at the HQ, right? So I will I'm eager to drink this. I will drink it. I will be eager to go out and buy another one. The XO, hey, it's a really good smooth drinker. I'll tell you, it puts me in mind that it's so smooth, it feels like a weeder to me. Just because, you just have this like really soft, smooth, uh, not hateful. So, you go through and do that, and it's pretty nice. That's why you drink slow, right? Jenny, you drink slow because it does change. It's a sipping thing. The only thing you're trying to get through. So a lot of people ask me, how much do I drink and all that stuff? I never drink for effect. I'm not trying to get somewhere. I'm trying to get to know this drink. And what I've found is most drinks that are in the whiskey world, right? Bourbon, whiskey, scotch, Irish whiskey, whatever. Most of them, the slower you go and the more time you spend with it, the more you find all of them suffer from multi-personality disorder because they completely change all throughout your journey with them, and your journey might only be a couple hours. So every time I go back to Woodinville, I just get, one time I smell port, the next time I smell a cigar wrapper, the next time I smell port, next time is a cigar wrapper. So it's so bizarre. If you're a cigar smoker, you want this Woodinville port finish. It is delicious. I like a little bit more proof. So I'm feeling like this last little splash, I want to mix it with something. No, I'm going to drink this one, and then I'll mix something else. So I want to keep it in the cigar world. So let's pour some new. So skirmish, fighting going on right up there and because I'm not surprised, our first president was a fighter. The state's named after him. Woodinville definitely won this, hands down. It wasn't kind of a split decision. It wasn't a unanimous decision. It was a KO, straight knockout. Their full frontal assault caught them off guard. It was over. It was over before it started. So now we get into the weird part and the fun part, right? Is how do we make it fit a profile? So it fits my profile for cigars. It fits it for a 90 proofer. I kind of like a higher proof. So what I'm going to do is do a quick blend to what I think. So I'm going to take some of this. I'm going to be predominantly this because this is what I like. The taste of this is really good. And listen, this is a me thing. This is never me saying, hey, you should do this. This is more of a me saying, hey, don't be afraid to mess around with some of your drinks. You might find you can blend something a little bit more into your wheelhouse. So, and right now, this is what I'm on, right? Because this is a port. If you've ever had a big, rich port, right? Ports are red. We're not talking about the white ports, right? Because they don't even call the white ones that, call them something else. And I'm not a wine show. So, but the bold, rich ports, is usually your dessert wine that you would put on a cigar and pair it with some chocolate, almost always. So I'm pulling that on it. It's big, unbelievable, beautiful legs on this thing. But that don't have enough proof for me. I want it to be a little bit hotter. So let me look over here real quick. And hey, I see a contender right away. So someone's going to find me doing this like sacrilegious. I know they are. But I am going to blend a little bit of this with the Woodinville. So Booker's coming in with the Chew. I think I'm on the Kentucky Chew. Yeah, the Kentucky Chew. This is coming in at 126.7 proof. This is aged 6 years and 4 months and 12 days. And this is 2018-03. If you're not familiar with what all that means, that's okay. Booker's traditionally makes, they release 4 of them a year, each quarter. 2020, they only did 3. But traditionally, they do 4. That's why there's the 2018, 01, 02, 03, and 04. Hey, what's up, Richie Z? Glad you could join. Finally got a bunch of my stuff set up, doing a just a live tasting. Had an impromptu skirmish tonight, so thought I'd just chime in. So what I'm doing right now, because I'm trying to, I went through the skirmish. I found my winner. The winner, Woodinville, spanked Crown XO at the Battle of the Border, and it's really good. So cigar wise or anything like that, this Woodinville port finish is amazing. Chew to it. And I challenge people enough to say, hey, listen, you have stuff on your bar and you're figuring out what you like. And if you know the things that you do like, how do you make them be something better, right? Modify them, tinker around with it a little bit. And that's exactly what I'm doing, right? So I'm going to go through and I'm going to let this breathe a little bit, let it marry up together. Hopefully they enjoy each other and they get together good. Yeah, the Woodinville is, and it's really weird. I've had it sitting here, and I went down to my buddy's shop. My buddy has a tattoo shop. He's a fellow Marine. And actually, my new logo, I just updated my logo tonight. And when I went through and updated the logo, he's the one that I gave him what I wanted, and he's the one that drew it. So we've got a final modification to it, and then I got it up tonight. I just sent it off to be digitized so I can get my digital image put up, and then I have a CNC crafter who's making my signs, and I talked to a local person, and they're going to be making my shirts. So I have that kind of stuff coming up. Because I think the thing is that we need to be out there supporting each other because we all bring something different. You're going to go through and you're going to find stuff and you're going to talk to people and you're going to see, hey, I like this guy because, man, he puts on a great show. Or this guy is, man, I really like his profile. And you're just going through and figuring out what it is that each person likes. Real quick, I'm learning YouTube live now because this is my first live through YouTube. Fortunately, I was talking to Dusty Dan earlier, and I was like, how do I do that? And he's like, oh, you just do this. And he's like, how are you doing YouTube live? He's like, you're not monetized. I said, we don't have to be monetized. You have to be verified. And so, yeah. So you heard about my smoking. It's surprising. You'll have to ask Dusty about it. Ask Dan about it. Actually, March 8th, unless something changes. So I do have some upcoming things that I want to. There's only a couple people here, so I'll send especially with Richie. I have upcoming with blind a blind tasting of the smoke stuff that I sent to the Whiskey Crusaders. I had it wasn't live, it was just an impromptu with Dusty Dan. So I sent those samples out to, this is my bourbon podcast, Mash and Drum, Whiskey Crusaders, and Dusty Dan. So Mash and Drum, he's local. I was going to send him. He said, hey, we'll just catch up. So when he gets him that stuff, but I think that's the thing that's a little bit different is like, I want people to understand that you can change the profile of something. You can make it be yours, and that's okay. I thought about having a segment of what's a better pairing, with your favorite drink that in my community or my world that you've ruined. So there's a lot of things going forward, but yeah, for me, eventually I will get to the point of sharing some of that information, but for right now, I need to continue to learn more and do more about it. I think I'm where I need to be. Now I'm just trying to figure out what I need to do with it. So, okay, so this is, so we can see I haven't changed, maybe darkened it a smidge, but not tons. So what this is 2/3 Woodinville port finish. This is not cask strength. This is 90 proof. Mixed with Booker's 2018-03, the Kentucky Chew at 126.9. I want to bring up the proof, but not take away from, right? And I do a lot of pairing. I promise you, I pair all the time. Now, you know what? It did knock down a little bit of that port finish, right? Because I was smelling port pretty strong earlier. Oh, yeah. Man, that's a great finish. That's a great finish. So what we're getting is I still am getting a great cigar feel, right? So I'm still getting that, what you would expect from if you're having a port and you've already been smoking a cigar, right? You get that like smoky tar feel on your tongue when you've had about maybe six or seven really good drags of a Maduro cigar. You get that oily, deep feel in your mouth. Now we've just introduced spice. Even though we didn't add anything spice, Booker's gives you proof. So we've stepped up our proof a little bit. So you get that big spice. I still get the saliva on the back of my tongue, so I'm still getting my age statement, which gives me that, around 6-year age. I'll be interested to go find out how long this has been aged. But my initial thought was around 6. I know Booker's a 6.9, so that's cheating. But I would sit earlier in the feed. I was saying I thought it was 6. Yeah, this turned into a really nice drink, right? If you like it a little bit, now listen, if you're just trying to figure out, hey, I want to have a good cigar and some really nice dark chocolate, I would tell you a Maduro cigar with some Dove's dark chocolate and this Woodinville port finish next to a fire with your feet up is perfect. Perfect. Yeah, you definitely get more of a fruit feel on Booker's, Richie, but really what I was looking for is what is something I can do to up the proof to get a little bit more mouthfeels, a little bit more spice, a little bit more of what's going on with that, and not take away from something that feels very melted black licorice mixed with a heavy, thick molasses type of note. and you still get that port cigar finish Maduro. It just it's cooled down a little bit. You do, because you know as well as I do, everything always changes, and we're all subjected to people's notes. I did just smell some fruit for a second. Black cherries. I do get a black cherry out of that. Not a Marciano cherry. They're only good for putting in drinks or putting in a big can of, throwing them in a mason jar full of something. That is delicious. I would buy that. I would buy that. That is really good. So all this was 2/3 Woodinville, do 2 jiggers of Woodinville, 1 of Booker's. I don't even think it would matter which Booker's. So figure out your worst one, right? We all know what that is. And use it as a mixing cocktail for your cigar liqueur, right? I go through and I do this all the time. The other day I did, someone was like, "What did you do?" So my brother, I always on my channel call him the Gunny. He's retired gunnery sergeant. I left as a staff sergeant. Therefore, Echo 6 Whiskey stands for E6W. My last name is Williams. So Echo 6 Whiskey is my call sign. What's up, Daniel? Yeah, the blend turned out, port and the cigar nose and the I haven't lost any of those nose. I haven't lost any of those nose feels. And I'm sorry, I don't know why it keeps coming up as unstable. So I can see YouTube Live coming up and saying your connection's unstable. I think it's YouTube. I'm on a landline and I'm in the industry. But this happened earlier tonight to a couple of people too. So Dan was asking, so what all did you blend? So tonight between XO and Woodinville, my winner was Woodinville. XO was just a little bit too light. Once I took the Woodinville, and the notes on it are amazing. So this is Woodinville finished in port, right? So this is a Woodinville 90 proof bourbon whiskey that's finished in port casks. And what I blended it with was Booker's. I like a bigger, higher proof. So I took it 2/3 of pour was the Woodinville, 1/3 Booker's. Because Booker's going to give you, it's always 6 years. It's always in that 6-year mark, somewhere in there years. And it gives you, the proof statement on it, but it still gives you, an availability to not over dominate something. It knocked it down some, but it didn't knock it out. It took a beating. It was like a Rocky every show. It took a beating, but he still came out on top, right? And I promise I've never been a boxer, but they're just awesome. I did a 2018-03 Kentucky Chew. But yeah, it turned out amazing. Really, I mean, that's a straight up smoker. And that's, I'm always trying to figure out how do I change something for a particular reason. Now, having said that, if I was not a high proof guy, I would have probably just stayed with it. The Woodinville port cask is delicious. Absolutely delicious. Nothing about it that I hate. I wasn't hating the color to your eye. Your second pour is better. So always take time with whatever you're drinking. Sip it. I always make anybody that I do a sample with, and I believe Jenny's still on here, and she can attest to this because I've done in person with Jenny. You go through, you just introduce it to your palate, get your palate adjusted 3 times. 3 small sips that are just palate adjustments. Your 4th one, you chew it, wake your tongue up and say, okay, Now I'm coming in. Your fifth one, all that changes. It just changes to now you start pulling all these notes, all these things you hear people talk about. Now you start pulling it. The thing that I don't typically ever hear anybody say is a second pour, right? I went through, I've acclimated, I've chewed, I've tasted. I need to let it sit, relax for a little bit, have some dialogue, come back to it, and do my nose again, my acclimation. And even though I'm not going to have a burn now, it's going to smell and taste different. And I think it's a big step that sometimes is getting lost, right? Yeah, definitely. You can't go wrong with it. Angel's Envy is a great port finish, right? The only reason I didn't do Angel's Envy is because I'm out of it. I drank the last of my port finished bourbon. I have rye, but and I think that's the thing, right? You have to figure out, you know what you like. So challenge yourself. Hey, I know what I like. What do I have on my bar, whether I like it or not, that I can pair with it to meet, whether it be my proof, my complexity, my overall flavor profile, whatever it is, right? You know, and do that, because why wouldn't you? Yeah. So what you want to do is look at different things, right? Whether you can find Woodinville or not. I have to imagine you can find it somewhere, maybe online or something. It's not going to be, I don't know where you're located at, but, I look on the shelves here in Ohio and I see it every day. So I've never had a problem getting it. Now, having said that, Daniel, this is literally the first time I've ever cracked a bottle and opened it. I've never tried it before tonight. I bought it because I saw it. I read some reviews on it, and had my buddy at the tattoo shop not had given me a bottle of XO, this probably would have never happened. But I was figuring out my YouTube live. How do I go through and get this all set up, and what do I have to do? And when I went through and did it, I was like, well, what am I going to do if I want to sample that goes towards content? I said, well, I'm going to do a live and I'm going to do a skirmish, right? So there's certain things I do. I do recon reports. A recon report is nothing more than, like, basically it's an uncorking, right? Opening a bottle, a brand new bottle, and trying it out, giving a review on this new bottle. To me, it's a recon report. Oh, you guys are in the middle of the ice storm. He's in Lexington, Kentucky, and his feed just stopped. Just straight up stopped. And then he jumped on his phone on Instagram, and it was kicking it. So I don't, Richie, I don't have infinity bottles, but I have projects. Usually I know how to blend. I know how to blend for my profile. I know how to blend. And they gave me some homebrew. So they gave me just some straight White Dog. And they said, what can you do with this? And I was like, oh, are you serious? I said, I'll be back in a week. And so I did. I went back in a week, and they said, is this White Dog? And I said, why does it have color? Why have all these things? And I said, well, there's some thought processes into that. I'm not trying to flash anything. I'm not trying to do any kind of stuff like that. It's more about the idea of, hey, what's up, Ben? You're welcome. Proud to do it. Any detail at all. And Richie knows I do this, especially if I've had a bender night where sometimes I end up on like Stan's show on the late show, and I've been sampling all day. I probably say more than I should. But, there's some things that you can really do that are really interesting. And and it really just started as this freak accident, right? So me and my brother get together often. We're 2 houses apart. And so I looked at, he has he enjoys the drinks that he enjoys usually is about 107 and below. 107 is like at the top end of his proof. Me, on the other hand, I would prefer to start at 107. 100 is about as low as I go, with exceptions. If I'm looking to do something, I'm a high proof guy. So what I do is I go through and figure out, okay, what can I do to make this so that we both like it? And I found some things, and it'll come out. The more I go through and figure out what to do with it and that stuff, I will definitely go through and figure it out a little bit better and spend more time on it. Now, having said that, I've been doing this for a while, and so I can tell you I have a project going on for one of my subscribers that said, hey, I really, really want you to take this drink, and it was a bourbon, one of his favorite bourbons. It's 115 proof. I want you to make this yeah. And Daniel, there's nothing, that's just it, right? Everybody has a palate. We're only trying to give you the information that helps go through and figure out how to do you, right? You don't need to try to do me. I'm just giving advice and what I think are some thoughts that people just aren't spending enough time talking about. So, and that's the thing, right? As you spend more time sipping and tasting and drinking, your palate does change. So, Richie, I completely agree. When I very first came into the whiskey world, I came in straightforward, full frontal assault on Gentleman Jack. And the only way I could drink it, so it was still chilled, right? And that's the thing. I try to help people so one of my best friends, he is really into like a Jack, a Coke, or some kind of bourbon and a Diet Coke or whatever. And so I had him go through and we talked about, well, let's try it neat just a little bit and work through this process so that you understand what you like. So then you compare that with your Diet Coke. Don't just throw, something into your Diet Coke. Throw something you like into it. And then I say, hey, I want you to try this. I want you to try this chilled. So I poured it over an ice mold, stirred it, poured it out. We know that deadens it down quite a bit. But he really enjoyed it. And that's what I want you to enjoy it. And whether you ever get to neat or not, it doesn't matter. But you always want to go through and taste what you're drinking, figure out what you like and why, so that you're not wasting money at the store buying garbage. It may be great to me, but it's garbage to you. Find out what you like so that you can go through and put it in whatever it is you do. Yeah, so I'm definitely a proof guy. I'm a member of a bunch of boys. We call them the Mobs. And I don't think I ever came off Stag Junior the entire night. So, and the next morning everybody was hurting and they're like, why are you okay? I was like, well, I sip properly. I take my time and I drink a lot of water. And I faked it. I was hurting. So you can bet I will buy another bottle of Woodinville and pair it and proof it up just to have as a cigar decanter. I have plenty of decanters, and you always decanters, right? You always want decanters. Take your favorite regular drinker, get it out of that bottle and put it in a decanter. It's not like it's not breathing. I don't have the rye yet. unbelievably hard for whatever reason to get that single barrel proof rye. Now I did have, and I would love to get a sample of it and do blinds. The Wild Turkey Rare Breed barrel proof rye is absolutely delicious. But yeah, I haven't found, I'm like most of us, right? I'm not going on the secondhand market and buying stuff. I'm not giving those fools any money. I had someone tonight that was offering this and this and this, and I said, "Well, hey, I'm just going to drive there. I'm just going to drive to where you're at, and I'll pick it up." And they're like, "Well, due to COVID, we can only ship." And I was like, "Well, can you just set it outside?" There is a Wild Turkey barrel proof rye, right? Wild Turkey Rare Breed. It's Rare Breed. So Wild Turkey Rare Breed barrel proof rye. Absolutely, there is one. I've already had it. I drank my entire bottle so fast it wasn't even funny. Me and another guy, we both took our best ryes and put them side by side and we paired them. And we both said they were the absolute best at what they made, but they were vastly different. So we did our pairing between the two of us. It was me and a buddy Scott that's on my Mid Ohio Bourbon Boys. We went down and dropped some trees and stuff at his property and, made a lot of firewood. And then when we came back, I had just got it. So one of the guys picked it up for me. I have Cornerstone. I do have Cornerstone, Daniel, and it is amazing. But I will say this. I would not take Cornerstone over Wild Turkey Rare Breed barrel proof rye. No way. It's really good, but it's not that good. So my tasting I did with Scott was we did Michter's limited release barrel strength rye, which is really, really sweet, in a good way. It's a good sweet, which is weird when you're talking about a rye against the Wild Turkey Rare Breed. So I'm trying to figure out. Let me check real quick. I'm going to step away for a second because I'm pretty sure I have the empty bottle so you can at least see it. Oh, I apologize. My artsy fartsy crafty wife put it into one of our cases. So I have a mini whiskey barrel split into all pretty in my bar, and it's sitting in there. And I ain't about to touch that because I am not artsy fartsy crafty at all. Yeah, but if you want to do a cigar or whatever, I would say take your Woodinville, try it, figure out proof wise. Because if you tell me you're having this Woodinville port cask and it doesn't pair, you're wrong. I'll straight up tell you you're wrong. I've been pairing cigars for years, and it is delicious. But proof it to your liking and figure out how do you proof it without taking away from the taste. You can knock it down some, but you don't want to take away from it because it is a delicious, delicious drink. I could do this on I could do it on its own. I don't need to mix it. I just like blending stuff. I like trying different things. Yeah. Eagle Rare is great. Eagle Rare used to be my drinker. I was always into it. It is always my bar. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Eagle Rare. It's just, short, fat bottle. That's why. It's not. It looks huge. Up here, it was kind of twisted to the side so that I could fit it in, but you couldn't see the other end. I was just trying to get it in there so you could see it. And it's funny because you can't see it actually in order to get. So Ben, you're having your first sample of Eagle Rare? Sounds like Chris the Music Man's a hell of a good guy. Eagle Rare is great stuff. It's great stuff. And it does have that really nice, rich, heavy, dark sweet notes, right? So it's not port cast strength finished, right? But you're never going to go wrong with Eagle Rare. Well, I think the connection is buffering because of a lot of reasons. I keep getting a notification from YouTube Studio that it's unstable and then it stops. I talked to Jenny, who was on here earlier, and she was saying that she was seeing the same thing. But I'm not sure why it's buffering. I can tell when I'm talking. I try not to go online with wireless. So let me see, though. Hold on. Having said that, you made me instantly think of maybe I'm on Wi-Fi. And lo and behold, I saw my LAN cable just hanging. So let me go through here and all right. Let that LAN will kick in and jump over. Hell, I usually am on the LAN. I have a LAN cable that's hanging here. So we'll give it a second and see what it does. Right? It's just going through and getting your feel for what you like and understanding that it starts with the idea of that you like and how do you go through and figure out what you in your time. Make sure that you're getting to the point that you're getting these notes and these different things. Now, having said that, you don't have to look at the back of the bottle and look at their notes. The stuff on there is done by sommeliers and executive level stewards and stuff like that have spent time training themselves. What you need to do is figure out the notes that you like and the notes that you know. If it comes up smelling like cornflakes, well, that's not wrong. If it comes up smelling like Cocoa Crisp, and focus on that. The rest will come later. Just take your time and figure it out. I'm trying to sit here and figure out why is my LAN not picking up as fast. Yeah, you know what, Ben? That's not surprising. Buffalo Trace is a really nice, sweet, good taste in bourbon. It's pretty easy going. It doesn't kill the palate. You know, you're not getting this like big burn. You're getting like your sweetheart when you were 13. So what you'll find out, and I'm pretty sure that Richie will contest to this, that over time, you're going to find that proof will go up. So, yeah, I don't know why that's, I have some delay there. But anyway, this is the first actual YouTube Studio live now that I'm verified. But yeah, store picks are the Gunny came down and he had a really nice Maduro cigar. And he's like, what would you pair this with? Buffalo Trace, but it was a Whiskey Kitchen store pick out of Louisville. And their Whiskey Kitchen pick was amazing. Really amazing. Yeah, Eagle Rare is... So Stag Jr. is like Eagle Rare's big brother. It's... So, not that there's a big age difference, but yeah, it's really good. So don't be afraid to blend, right? Because this turned out to be really, really nice. So now the question is, I know what to do eventually. I figured out pretty fast what to do with the Woodinville because it was so good. So now I'm thinking, what the hell do I do to this Crown XO? This Crown XO, I can't get over the fact that it's just this is a screw top, right? I'm like, but I like it. I'm like, it's not chintzy, it's not cheap. It's got a nice little kind of seal in there. Yeah, so you can see that, you get in the seal in there, and I don't know, it's a pretty nice screw top. So if you've never watched Matt from the Whiskey Crusaders rant on corks, it's worth a watch. So I'm going to take a hefty pour, not quite a Perry pour, because, hey, I got to be able to talk and communicate. Although I did have a video. It's really funny. I had a video on Instagram where I did I think it was called Just Talking. And I think it was after like a live feed and a this feed and a that feed and whatever. And my buddy down at the tattoo shop, he's like, dude, that was like the best thing I've ever seen. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, that video you did, you live feed. And I was like, okay. And so he told me about it and showed me about it. So I went and watched it. I don't even remember doing that. So it must have been a rough night. So it was pretty funny. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to reintroduce it to me so I can figure out what I want to blend it with. I have a thought. It just isn't really like anything that is. Yeah, the screw tops is the best thing about it is definitely that. I just wish they put a better gasket in them. If you're going to take the time to give me a good seal, give me a better seal. Man, compared to what I've been drinking, that is just straight. It's just so smooth that you almost don't feel like you're drinking an alcohol product at all. It's so smooth, and you can see that it's incredibly. It looks and it tastes a little light. So I'm from Ohio, so I'm going to throw something from Ohio in it and something else. So I'm going to do a triple blend. So because I'm trying to get to a cigar profile. So I'm going to take this guy. Oh, let me get over here where you can see it. I'm going to take Cleveland Underground rye whiskey. So I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to do a splash because I have something else I need to add because that's not a high proof. So I just want to add some of it and give it a little bit more taste, right? And that's black cherry wood. And then I want to give it some proof, right? So I'm not going to put my Bookers in this just because I don't want to. So I don't need to add a ton of proof. I just need to add something that's going to give it that heavy bourbon type of finish that's readily available and easy to use. And it always comes out good and spicy and add it. Just everybody's staple, Turkey 101. I'm going to put some Turkey 101 in it. Oh, yeah, that never gets old. I think this bottle's been refilled. I don't even know how many times it's been refilled from the handles. Put my Bookers back up here. All right. So you can see, look at that. The color changed, right? Changed quite a bit. It doesn't look nearly as light. It looks like you got some age in there. And that came from that black cherry wood, right? That black cherry that's in the Cleveland Underground. So I'm just spending some time here marrying them together. It's like a shotgun wedding. They didn't want to be together. I just told them, hey, I got the gun, so you're going to have to get together. So I'm going to let it set for a second. And I'm going to do like a double skirmish. I'm going to go back to this guy. This one is my Woodinville mixed with Booker's. This is my Crown XO. Now look how close they got and color. I mean, I know you can't see a ton of color there, but they came a lot closer than they were earlier. And what I did with this guy is this is the Crown XO. I threw in Cleveland Underground Black Cherry and Wild Turkey 101. So I know what to expect off this guy. It did an about face. It absolutely changed. That has moved into a classic bourbon note. Like a really classic bourbon note. Just, if you think of your normal bourbon notes, I even hate repeating them because everybody says the same thing all the time. Take your classic bourbon notes and put them on steroids. They're just really dominant. It's really prevalent. Very prevalent. It's like fresh out of the jug maple syrup from a maple, people that actually do it themselves. Pancake syrup. I did this the other day for those of you that have never experienced pancake syrup. Not maple syrup, pancake syrup. When you come up and you don't have enough money to be able to go and buy maple syrup because it was expensive when we were young kids, basically you just took brown sugar and threw it in a cast iron skillet and put it on high and melted it and put it over it. So brown sugar, right? That is, I can promise you this. I'm going to make a decanter of that. All right, let's go to the nose. I got to get all that cigar and smell out. And the cigar comes from just the smell of that wrapper. Now, it's funny because earlier, this was very, very hard to pick up on the nose because XO is so smooth. You picked up on some notes. But now I'm starting to pick up on, there's a proof change. And for me, and I don't know about anybody else, right? So for me, the higher the proof, I kind of feel like way up in my sinus. I have this like twinge or this tinkle or something else. Now I'm pulling a little bit more of, earlier I was pulling like a molasses / heavy burn brown sugar and stuff like that. Now I'm starting to pull more of like there's like this weird, I would imagine it would be if you took vanilla extract and almost burn it. Put it in your skillet, let it cook on high to the point that it starts boiling, and then cool it, scrape it off, and smell it. That's what it smells like to me right now. Hey, Ben, everybody does, because let's face it, pancakes without syrup just suck. I would challenge you to put some bourbon on your pancakes. You might be surprised. Not a lot. You don't need to be getting drunk in the morning on your pancakes. But I'm just saying, the right bourbon, that pancake soaks that shit up. So this is really nice. I'm getting some like weird caramel notes, which I wasn't pulling caramel off this at all, even anywhere in the world on this. This is a cognac finish. Absolutely, absolutely, Richie. You definitely. It would be nice if you could freeze it, but it is delicious. So what you do, so, and I've never ever shared this, right? So you need to get a rocks glass, right? Put a particular bourbon, it doesn't matter what it is, put it in your freezer. It'll get nice and cold, but it'll never ever freeze. Take it out, pour it in your rocks glass, and put a scoop of vanilla ice cream with it. I used to be a really, really big fat guy, but hey, listen, I lived a little. So yeah, it's funny because this has changed quite a bit. And once again, this is Crown XO 101 in it to up the proof a little bit. Bada bing. Oh, that is so good. That's like really good. That's really good. It's different from this, right? Because with the Woodinville straight, you had a bunch of really strong port. Theirs is so port, it makes you feel like they put it in a port barrel that might have still had a little splash of port in it because it was so dominant port. If you haven't had port, go get a port. Go get a proper port. Taste it, smell it, and understand. It tastes like the sweetest, richest red wine you've ever had. That's like not quite cough syrup, but really good cough syrup. It's usually found on the dessert menu at like a high-end place. It's like, would you like a dessert menu? And it'll be like creme brulee or triple chocolate layer this, or lava cake and blah blah blah, and then port. Yes, please. You're telling me my dessert can be alcohol? I'm in. And port is really that. It's really, really sweet. But it's really thick and has a lot of complexity. So it's really good with a cigar. So this right here, if Cigar Lover was on here, she may sit there and like wonder whether or not I'm right or not, but I am. Quite honestly, Richie, any port, it doesn't matter, because the basic principle is you're getting a port grape, and what the process is they're making it as it's a dessert wine. So all your ports are dessert wines. They're really sweet, they're really rich, but they're a great nose taste profile to think of when you want to go to cigar. How do I take this profile and mix it over? Yes, she is. But she's really nice. She's really nice. Yeah, her eyes are just like ridiculous. Yeah. So if you had port, right, Ben, the thing that you're going to have with a port, right, is always going to be like this big, sweet, robust profile. That's what you're always going to get out of a port. So maker special edition for purifier is drinking. Oh, yeah. I don't know what they're drinking, but I've been telling what I'm drinking, what I'm changing it to, and all that stuff. So I'm always trying to modify and change things. Not that I don't like them. I can tell you right now, this Woodinville is really good. It's really good. The Crown XO, I would have to imagine, right? Because you figure all the craze with the Wellers and the Pappies and all that stuff, they're all weeders. And when you're talking about weeders, I have a certain thought process in my head, right? For me personally, weeders are great for blending because they're a really good, nice, smooth profile because they don't have a lot of bite, they don't have a lot of oomph to them. Um, I've never had Weller Full Proof, so I couldn't speak to that. But on your basic stuff, right? Antique 107 and Special Reserve, I can buy that by the handle all day long. And they're good. They're really good. But I usually want to kind of move them into my profile. And so I kind of take that kind of stuff and figure it out. So don't sit there and drink something and think, wow, I wish this tastes like this. Well, try it. Take something you think that would put it there without ruining the taste of it. And you might find yourself quite surprised. I took Cognac, which for me, hey, listen, there's very few people in my life that I would sacrifice mine for them. But my buddy Dano at the tattoo shop, I would, and he knows that. And this is his favorite drink, and I know why. It's really good. It's silky smooth. It's so easy to drink. My profile that I like, I want the bite. I want the taste. I want the pain. I want all of it because I want that big, bold aroma. And I think a lot of us graduate to that level. I know Perry Ritter is like that. And there's quite a few people that are finding themselves moving into the hyper. Doesn't mean they won't do a review or a tasting and all that stuff, and they know their palates, and so do I. You can go through and taste something. I wish I had more time to sit and just study all the different distillers and all that kind of stuff. I don't. I'm an engineer, so I don't have that kind of time. But what I do know is the things that I know from doing it since, 98. So I've been around for a while, back when you could buy stuff, back when you threw Henry McKenna Bottled and Bond on the bar because it was just a really good, easy drinker. And then certain people that go out of their way to say something like, oh, this is amazing, and then they just ruin the market. So you're like, no, be quiet, hush. I literally did a review on something not too long ago, and I had someone say, please stop. Don't tell anybody. And I was like, but that's a hard thing to do, right? Because you want to inform people. So you just want to make sure that you have people that are doing the right things. Yeah, it's hard to get everything right. It's just not. It just depends on where you're at and what you're looking at. And it's easy to see that a lot of your big channels are going through and able to give you a brand new release of something that just came out and all that stuff. Well, they're monetized, and that's hard to figure out in your regular everyday budget of I have X amount of dollars dedicated towards buying stuff when you don't have any money coming in. So everything I have and everything I do, I pay out of pocket. I don't have any source coming in that does any of that stuff. So that stuff gets expensive. I've just been fortunate to do it long enough that a lot of people are like, oh, hey, I can't even find Henry McKenna. I can remember when Henry McKenna was like 19, 20 bucks. So, so it's one of those things. But, that was mostly because, the gunny would sit there and say, hey, go buy this. This is good. And I'd be like, okay. He'd say, like the one I'm waiting, there's one, and I can't believe it hasn't got to the point yet. So I would encourage Daniel or whoever, if you're not out there buying, there's two in particular that both me and my brother, and you hear it in circles, slowly going around. Be careful before it gets, the second handers get it, right? The second handers go out there, and I'm not big enough for second handers to be jumping on my stuff, but Woodford Reserve Double Oaked, and Elijah Craig Small Batch. I don't know anybody that don't have Elijah Craig 94 proof small batch on their bar. It is absolutely delicious. And Woodford Reserve Double Oaked is amazing. It's amazing. It doesn't matter. The store picks are even better, but even the regular stuff, you can have that smooth with cigar all day long. And oh, they're both really good. And just recently, I saw someone on the tubers that I'm a subscribed to. It's like, why is this overlooked? And I'm thinking, like, why are you bringing it to the forefront? you know. Now I'm fortunate. I'm in Ohio, so we are in a controlled state, so it's all by the state. So anything we do buy is MSRP. And look for Double Oak store picks. That is really good. That's so surprising how different that is. Not that surprising because of the blend, but to take something that smooth and it's still really smooth. That's the thing, right? I still have that velvet like this rolling across a tidal wave going across. That you're like, oh, that's nice. But now I have a little hug. And I'm sure that's the 101 talking to me. And I have some flavor. I'm sure that's the underground black. But it's man, that's a nice drink. I would have to imagine that if I threw that all together and I sent it to you and I said, hey, have this with a cigar, you'd be like, how can I buy that? And I was like, well, go buy these things and do this. So oh yeah, they're completely different. So Ben put up here, he's like, now he wants to have a Buffalo Trace and an Eagle Rare to compare side by side. So yeah, there's a big difference. Yeah, Richie, it is. It's one of the newer bottles. I have the old bottle just because I won't open it because they keep getting rid of it, and I know it's been discontinued, but it's so much prettier than the new bottle. But yeah, I do have the newer Kentucky Spirit. So they changed, right? They went from their classic bottle to this, which I'll be honest with you, I don't really care for this one. I mean, it's pretty, I get it. They're trying to change to this, but if you're not familiar with the old Kentucky Spirit, so the bottles behind me are not the only ones, right? They're just the ones you see. So if you look at it, this is the feather tail, right? So this was thought to be the turkey feather tail. And then this is their new modern whatever. So I think somewhere they had somebody come up and say, hey, I think you need to get more modern, realizing that all they did is just like, screw the pooch. The old Kentucky Spirit bottle is way, way, way better. Yeah, but Wild Turkey, Kentucky Spirit, Rare Breed, Unforgiven. I'm a turkey fan. I don't know that I've had anything turkey that I don't like. Russell's Reserve, anything. So it's really funny, right? I had someone shout out to me one time about my Russell's Reserve back here. I think it's still back here. Yeah, my Russell's Reserve. It's like, you have a Russell Reserve 10-year that hasn't been cracked. And I was like, well, I have a lot of shit that hasn't been cracked. But there's a reason why this one's not cracked. So this Russell Reserve is not cracked for a particular reason. If you look at it, and can you see it? Right above the label, it's signed from Jimmy Russell. So I had to sit down with Jimmy Russell, and he signed my bottle of Russell's Reserve. And yeah, I'm probably not going to open that. I will someday, hopefully. But, right now, I just don't got it in me to open up a signed Jimmy Russell Reserve. Yeah, and that's the thing about Unforgiven, right? It might be more in Ben's wheelhouse because right now, the ones that he's talking about are a lower proof. No, I'm not opening it. There's no chance I'm opening it. Yeah, I have that, and I have a. So I have a basic Jimmy. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm not getting rid of any of that stuff. My brother's like, oh, dude, that's a sweet hat. You should wear that. And I was like, yeah, no. First of all, I have great hair. Why would I mess it up? So, but that's just like a joke between him and I. No, I'm not. I mean, that's the thing, right? How many times do you ever get a chance to sit down and have a learning session per se with Jimmy Russell? So I was fortunate enough that there wasn't a whole lot of people there. Yeah, well, Ben, you're always going to have that, right? Curveballs aren't bad. It's just figuring out all those things. Great hair, let's go. Yeah. So, I think that's the thing that you have to realize. There's different flavor profiles in the high proofs. So do the due diligence, right? If you've ever had McDonald's coffee, right? You could literally take paint off your car with it. It's so hot. So everybody does this like really sip, like, oh my God, is it going to melt my whole tongue? So I'm just going to let it taste a little bit of my tongue. So you have to have that same thought process when you're trying something that's a higher proof. You just go through, you taste, you're like, whew, that's really hot. Well, me and the gunny almost made a shirt that said, that's hot. Duh. It's a high proof alcohol. Of course it's hot. But no different than getting up and having breakfast. You have a glass of orange juice. You get done eating. You go brush your teeth. And you walk back upstairs and you realize you still have a half a glass of orange juice. And you're like, oh, that's going to taste like crap. But you drink it anyway because, hey, orange juice isn't cheap. And after a sip or two, it tastes like orange juice again. Exact same thing with whiskey, right? You have to acclimate your palate, get it adjusted before you pull all the different stuff. So you have to go through and do that. Once you do that, then you might find that, hey, some of this stuff I really enjoy. Flavor profile and that stuff. Or, wow, I really enjoy it, but it's still too hot. Well, put a couple drops of water in it and let it open up, or put it over an ice mold. Experiment. I always encourage I think I've always tried to do this on every video, encourage experimenting to your palate. Not just sitting there, not just doing what, Daniel at the Whiskey Tribe said, or what Jason at the Mash and Drum said, or Scott at Down Under. Everybody's got different profiles. You just have to find yours, and then that's right. But don't be afraid to go outside your profile, because your proof and your profile, all that complexity is going to change the more you spend time sipping and tasting. It's funny because I have an upcoming segment. I kind of hinted to it earlier. I know March 8th, we're kind of on the docket for it, if everything goes right. Doing a blind tasting of stuff that I sent to the Crusaders, the Whiskey Crusaders. Some stuff in the pipeline. I have some stuff coming up with one of the gals over in the UK. Another gal that's down south. and just doing some different tasting and profiling and working it so that it ends up being very unique. We will both have something. I'm going to have something Scotch and and something in the bourbon realm, and she's going to have the same. And she's going to talk to her Scotch community. I'm going to talk to the bourbon community. So our pairing notes will be, driven by her on the Scotch side, driven by me on the bourbon side. And then I've made it so that it is one of those things that I have every intention of making it be like, okay, so I'll just pour them both together. Almost 2 years. I've had less than 10 bourbons. If you like the Elijah Craig 94, then hey, you're okay. Old Granddad Bottled and Bond, please. So it's really simple, Ben, right? Every bottled and bond is good stuff. If anybody says bottle and bond, if it says bottle and bond minimum bourbon, it's going to be a quality. And figure out bourbon world better. Just go to your local liquor store and buy a bottle and bonds. You can get it through, Evan Williams, Old Granddad, Early Times. Everybody has a bottle and bond, and you're going to get their basic, straightforward thought processes. I've had Glenmorangie and one. I have not had Ardbeg. So I had, anytime that you see a tasting note that says asphalt, I'm like, I don't know that I ever went out and licked hot asphalt, but I'm always trying stuff. I do have Scotch on the bar. So behind me, right, you can't see it because there's like a bunch of stuff and lighting and that stuff. I always have 4 decanters on the bar at the same time with stuff in them. It's really simple for me. I do a wheater, a rye, a bourbon, and a Scotch. And right now on the bar today, my wheater is Larceny, my bourbon is Jim Beam Black, and my rye is Knob Creek, and my Scotch is Chivas Regal 12. So it's always changing every time that I empty it, I fill it. So now, having said that, I'm not the only one emptying it. I have people that come visit and stuff like that, and we spend some time together, just drinking and enjoying ourselves, and then we end up talking for a while. And in that, you just get used to just sipping around, and before you know it, your whole entire decanters are all empty. But it's funny, I just did a couple simple things, and this went from something that I really wouldn't drink. I don't know that I'd ever buy it again to I'd buy this. So, it's always one of the things that is, oh, wow. So that's been sitting over here, right? I always put a back blast to the side. If you ever watch my channel, I always do a back blast. And the back blast is just let it sit. Go on some other tangent and talk and do whatever, but just let it breathe. Let it breathe, let it breathe, let it evaporate and all that stuff. That is straight chocolate. That is literally chocolate. That was the straight nose I got off it. That's chocolate. That's literally ground chocolate. Like if you've ever think about when you were young and you were Penelope. No, I've never had Penelope barrel strength. You had me at barrel strength though. So if you've ever made candy at Christmas time and you had to shave chocolate, just shave it on the old little fake little baby wash tub thing, just shaving it. That smells like shaved chocolate. Oh, that is so good. I haven't even got it into the profile yet. That is delicious. So the chocolate, right? This is the Woodinville blend. I kept a splash of it because I think that, and think is a terrible word. I know that there's a few things that you always should do especially when you're blending, right? You want to go through and taste it. You want to smell it. You want to do all the normal tasting notes that you would have in any kind of review. But once you blend it, you need to retaste it and then let it breathe and retaste it, and then just set it aside for a while. And then come back to it. It's always changing because it's marrying together. And there's a lot of evaporation and everything else going on with it as it's out. So if you have your typical, like there's not a whole lot in here, but if you were to take that and just set it out on anywhere in your house and dedicate yourself to not touching it, eventually it's just going to like crystallize at the bottom of the thing, and it's going to smell different then. So let it breathe. But right now, this went from all the notes I had earlier with this Woodinville. It's just chocolate on the nose. I haven't tasted it, but on the nose, it's shaved chocolate. It has a chocolate finish. It does have a chocolate. It's like, and I'm probably showing my age here, right? I know exactly the note I have on my tongue right now. I chocolate Nesquik without milk. You really wanted some chocolate. You didn't have milk, so you just took a little bit of it from the can and put it on your tongue, and that tastes like chocolate Nesquik when I was a kid. A 4-grain. You had me at MGP. I'll tell you, Daniel. I see a sample exchange in my future. Man, there's so many things that you can do. So many things you can do with this Woodinville. One, I'm on their bandwagon. This Woodinville port cask finish is delicious. I would say that, the next thing I would need to really spend some time and pair it with, I would like to fight it against Angel's Envy because I'm pretty sure it would win. But having said that, it's also really, 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 really nice as is. If you like a higher proof and you want to blend something with it, throw a dash of Booker's in there. I'd say do a 2-to-1 Woodinville to Booker's. Throw it together, and once you do that, man, you got a nice biter that has dropped down a little bit, but really, really good. So Woodinville is actually in Washington. The Crown's the one in Canada. Yeah, so Woodinville is actually distilled out of, I just read this earlier. Well, it says Washington, but I thought I read somewhere earlier it said where in Washington. But I'd have to imagine that you should be able to find it. And if not, if you can't find Woodinville, this is a limited release bourbon whiskey finished in port casks. Just hit me up. It's really simple. I'm bourbonbattalion@gmail.com. I think all those links are on my YouTube and my Instagram. On somewhere in there, figure it out. And If you can't find it, I'll send you a sample of it. I have no problem with that. I send samples out all the time. But you're talking MGP juice, cash strength. You had me at cash strength MGP. So maybe there's a sample exchange. So, man, I'm telling you right now, Richie, that is amazing. That's really good. That's the Booker's on Woodinville port cask. I may actually make that blend and send it to Dusty. Yeah, I only send samples. I buy boxes in bulk of samples. It was really funny. I sent samples down to This Is My Bourbon podcast in Lexington, which is really the closest. I sent them to Maryland, to Texas, and everywhere else. His were the only ones that he had one of them that got broken. I was like, how did they break one? I mean, I had it packaged tight in bubble wrap, individually wrapped, everything you could do to possibly not make one break. And I sent it to him as fragile liquid. Someone still went through and did something stupid. Ben, you've had Angel's Envy, right? Angel's Envy's port. Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing, right? Take your stuff and blend it. Go out and figure out. So that's one of the things, right? The reason why, and I know that the Mash and Drum had her on not too long ago. She had Nancy on there, who's a master blender, right? She does a lot of cigar blends and different stuff. And really, it's just the idea of most of all her blends are basically looking at how do I take these different vineyards and different regions and take the barrels they were in and blend it, right? Or take the juice. I don't think there's any difference. I just don't necessarily need to use wine to do it. For me, it's how do I take whiskey and bourbon and blend it together to hit a profile. So I know that coming up, I have a segment. I think my all three, well, I know two for sure. Special guest kind of live feeds will be in March. As of right now, March 8th is the Whiskey Crusaders. And I have to look here. I figure out some exact details, but I know that where are they at? Yeah, I have a couple others in the works. One of the Whiskey Crusaders is a tuber, whiskey tuber. The other lady in the UK is also a tuber. I think she's more on Instagram than tube, but I thought it'd be interesting to bring it on to do a Scotch bourbon side by side. And Southern girl that's really into doing she's a big hunter, a big outdoorsman, a big fisher, and she likes her whiskey. And so we've sunk up a little bit, we've been chatting for a while because we're both military, we're both outdoorsmen, we like our bourbon. And it all started over the idea that she was doing a bourbon chug for someone to ask her. And I said, whoa, that's some pretty good stuff to be just throwing down. She's a great gal. I actually plan on plugging her as much as I can because she's big into her whiskey and stuff, but she's also an avid outdoorsman. Yeah, Matt and those guys are great. Matt was the first guy from the Whiskey Crusaders. He was the first guy in the whiskey tube people that really reach out to me and talk to me and communicate to me right away. And well, we've been talking about it. I've talked to Dan quite a few times. We have something in the works. We've been talking about it, a couple of different things, and so we have something in the works. We discussed it today, and I said, "How fun would it be if we did this?" And he's like, "Yeah, that'd be pretty fun." So I talk to Dusty Dan quite often. He's a great person, great man, and has a great nose and palate for things, And that the thing is, if we're out here saying, yeah, we both know that. I just don't say it for him. That's something for him to say. I announce it, but I'm in Ohio. Let's face it. We're a predominant military state. Most everybody from Ohio is, for sure. We talk about it all the time. But we're not both in those type of areas. You know what I mean? And there was a picture, and I was like, if you're a military guy, you notice military things. If you're the particular branch that I am, you notice everything about your branch. So, and then so Rich Z, there's only 5 people on here, so now you've intrigued me. Hey, James Morgan, how you doing, buddy? Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. I used to come to London all the time. One of my so I did a lot of engineering and technical training, and one of my areas was in London. And I took some of my family over and that stuff, and they say, "Well, we need to catch the buses and that stuff." I said, "We don't need to catch the buses. I can literally walk to everywhere you go. Where do you want to go?" And so, that sucks. There's a leg. I'm not seeing it. And usually it's really a strange thing, Richie, because YouTube Studio usually does a good thing of throwing something that says that there's something going on, but I haven't seen anything. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it because normally I would see it, but right now I'm not seeing it. I'm not even seeing an alert. So I think it's an overall YouTube thing. I know I said that earlier, but yeah, it's one of those weird things that because I didn't even have the YouTube unstable warning, so it's one of those things. But so James is actually one of the London guys that was one of the first people to actually reach out and communicate, and so yeah, it's, as far as like salty old son of a guns, James right in there on anything that I've been doing. But the thing that you've missed tonight, James, that you might find intriguing is you'll want to go back because once this live's over and all that stuff, it'll end up being on my feed somewhere in the YouTube channels. You want to go back and watch it when you can spare. What I thought was going to be hours is now going on like over 2 hours. It's just different things we've tasted. So the 2 things we were doing tonight was a skirmish between a Canadian whiskey. We did Crown XO versus a Woodinville out of Washington, and both of them are finished. One's finished in Cognac and one's finished in port. And I think really, truthfully, the difference is one of them finished it longer. I think the Woodinville was definitely finished way longer than the Canadian whiskey was, the Crown. So I could be completely wrong on that, but that's just what I think. But I think it's a YouTube issue tonight. I'm running solid on the land right now, so yeah, I have been up north. I've been to the Canadian side. I spend a good amount of time doing a lot of fly fishing. Whether I'm looking at big steelhead or whether I'm looking at like rainbow and regular trout fishing and that stuff, I've been up in your area. Well, not necessarily in Wainwright, but I've definitely been on the opposite side of Lake Erie in the Canada side. So, no, I haven't. I don't think I've been by Alberta though. But I've definitely been on the Canadian side of Lake Erie. Is that right? Maybe I was on something else. Where was I at? I got to think about it for a second now. Now you got me thinking. Where was I at? I don't know. I'll have to look at some pictures because I notify everything about what I was. But yeah, I definitely spent some time up in that area doing some fishing. So my major outdoors thing, I like to hunt. I really enjoy hunting, but I like doing different things with it, whether it be pheasant hunting or bird hunting or big game hunting. But man, the solace that goes along with, yeah, I'm in Ohio. The solace that goes along with fly fishing, and you can go out there and have a flask or two or three or four or five, a few, and you're just out in the middle of nowhere doing it. No, I'm with you. So, Richie, you preluded to the idea that you were a military guy. Now you sparked my intrigue. So, I'm a fourth generation Marine that comes from a long lineage of military. Every branch of service, including the Coast Guard, is in my family. So, I will preface before you tell me, I am an equal armed forces guy. I believe that the things that make us the best in the military isn't because and every branch is absolutely the best at what they do. But not everybody does the same thing. I was really fortunate. I got to spend a lot of time overseas with all the different branches, a lot of different times I spent on deployments. Yeah, so I did some time on Air Force bases. I did time on Air Force bases. And, I think the thing with us is that I think like every branch, right? You have two basic types of veterans or active duty military. You have the guys that go in and figure out that, hey, in that, you're going to take the best they have to offer and learn from it, or you're going to come out a complete douchebag and think that you're some kind of Billy badass and going to end up beat up and drunk and unemployed. So, and I am not beat up, drunk, or unemployed. So I know to recognize from traveling the world and doing ops with different branches from all the different countries of our allies. And we're 100% fully voluntary. Everybody that's in there is in there because they wanted to be there. And that makes you a force to be reckoned with. So I have, it's really funny, right? So I had someone that one time was talking about, branches, and I was like, you have to imagine on a regular, everyday basis, the Coast Guard gets the most trash talked about them because they're not combat. But I would argue to say that the Coast Guard probably, without being in wartime battlefield environment on a daily basis gets shot at more than anybody. And that's just the truth. Those guys are dealing with crazy situations. But I love all branches. Listen, if anybody's willing to sign on the dotted line, it doesn't matter if it's military, first responders, whatever. If you're putting yourself in the battlefield for the betterment of someone else, cheers to you. Cheers to you. Because there's not a lot of people like you. You may be in an environment where you're used to talking to a bunch of people in your workplace, but in averages, you're unique. So cheers. Not everybody signs up to nurse, doctor, EMT, fireman, police, military. If your job is about defending and taking care of and being with others, Bourbon Battalion's for you. Thank you, Daniel. Proud to do it. Love it. So, Richie, I'll show you something that I've had a few Marine Corps bourbon guys that's actually asked me where in the hell I came up with this. And it's kind of like one of those weird things I stumble upon. I have a Jim Beam. Jim Beam used to do this really cool thing that they would go through and highlight different things, whether it be cowboys, special ships, or military service, right? So I have this from Jim Beam. You can see down here, I think you can see down here that it's Beam. It's 100-month-old bourbon whiskey. And this is the bottle it came in, right? So as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, I'll buy it. And it was really cheap. But yeah, I have a lot of Beam decant. It's always funny though. You can get some of this old stuff, and you're smelling stuff that's old because no one ever cleans it out. So I have a whole entire cowboy series I found. There's nothing but cowboy bottle. So yeah. Yeah, I have a bunch of cowboy bottles. I have a sinking, actually the Edmund Fitzgerald. I have a bottle of that. But it was all done by Beam. So I wish some of these distillers would get back to doing these specialized bottles, just in remembrance and respect towards whether it be service or. I know one of the bottles I have is actually a bottle with a emphasis on the Alamo. So just heritage, history, and all that kind of stuff. I'm all about that. So yeah, both those blends were amazing. I didn't hate either one of them. I didn't hate either one of them just straight up either. Yeah, they go way back. Imagine if I sit and looked at it. Let me see if it tells me. See if it has an age on it. Because not all of the entire label isn't there. So it's a 90 proof. Oh, so I showed you the front of it, right? So here's the back of it. Which is stupendous. It's the raising of the flag at Iwo Jima. So there's a lot of detail, heritage, and pride in that bottle. I'd have to look it up. I don't see when it was made because it's kind of a really rough label, but you know, it's really it's the only one I've ever seen. Anytime a Marine comes in, they're always like, "Hey, where'd you get that?" I was like, "Hey, get away from it." So, yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of Beam used to be really, really big into throwing out some weird bottles that were like incredible. So, uh, I'll give you an example of like two. Yeah, so they used to do this, and it's like a really weird, like little collector series, right? So this one is Beam Choice. It's 8 years old. It's 80 proof Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. Um, and then it has this like big thing about different people in the past and all that stuff. So this is a Kentucky. This is a Jim Beam Cowboy series, right? And they have the Cowboys on it and that stuff. And then they have the overall literature about it on the back. That stuff. So I have a bunch of the Cowboy series, but they also did another series, right? So this one is so it's really funny, right? So it's Americana collection of great moments in history. And this one is done not by Beam. This one's J.W. Dant. And let's see, it was 86 proof and it was 4/5 of a quart. And it was what's this? And then on the back of it, the back of the bottle is this. And so, you know, and it says it has a little J.W. Dan here. And it says the magnificent Western history, Americana. And then, you know, it's just different. So back then, you know, you have Beam and Dant doing these really cool things with different bottles to look at different histories, and whether it be cowboys or military history or whatever. And in this case, you know, you have the ships fighting and all that stuff, and that's linked back to the Fitzgerald, which would be, I think that's what it was. What was it? No, this was, you know, I'm totally off on that one. This one's actually representative of, I don't think my label on here matches this, but I know it's a Dant. Because this side of it, you get these different bottles and look at them, and they're just, all right, there's something special about them. But I can remember when I first got them, they were already opened and emptied, right? I don't have that. But, like, you know, you see this thing here, and it's just a screw top. But it's really good sealed. But you can still smell the juice in it. Well, if it's 24 year old and you're getting it for $130, that's not a bad gig. It's not like you're getting raped on it. Do you know any details about it, Dan? Or this is James. Me and Dan have a bunch of common. Yeah, but he actually has stuff that has juice in it. You know, mine are empty. Every time I see anything whiskey that has any kind of legacy to it, I buy it. So I just want to go through and do it. Now I did have, and I'm going to do a review on it. got a sample from him of Cream of Kentucky 1972, and I did an actual recon report on it. So it'll be a future recon report I'll post out there. Yeah, those bottles are beautiful. It'd be interesting to see, I think it'd be really cool to see a distillery at your events and put those bottles back out because they were really cool. So my stuff's empty and this Woodinville tastes delicious. So I'm going to put a smidge more in here. So, Rich, I got to ask, or James or Dan or anybody else that's in the feed, do you guys ever, when you pour something, you have that last drip, do you ever take it and either do a little dab by your nose, or if you have a beard, by your beard at all? Now, I have been to Basters Malt. Yes, I am. Hey, Ben, I am Bourbon Battalion on Instagram. I have the same logo on both. You'll see the same logo whether you go one side or the other. It looks very similar to, it's like a Glencairn with crossed, it's a sword going across with a thief. So I had someone ask me one time, it's like, what's that other sword? And I was like, no, it's a whiskey thief. So if you look at it, you'll see a Glencairn in the middle. And one side is a non-commissioned officer sword from the United States Marine Corps. The other side is a whiskey thief. They're going through the back of a Glencairn glass. And then there's an emblem that goes like this around it that looks like an arrowhead. That's actually the patch from the last unit that I served with, which was 3rd Battalion, 8th Marines, where I was deployed overseas with. So there's a lot of, everything in there means something to me. A military guy will figure out the military stuff. A whiskey guy will figure out the whiskey stuff. But if you're not a military whiskey guy, you won't figure it all out. So, but that's what's usually going on in the logo. You want to make it something that's simple, that represents you in the best way you can possibly make it without it being overwhelming. Because someone said, well, hey, are you going to put colors in it? And I said, no. That'll just take too much away from it. What's up, Chris Beaton? Just straight right now. I just tried that Woodinville again, just the way it is, straight out of the bottle. And it's still really good. Like really good. The only thing it lacks for me is just that proof up. It's a 90 proofer. It definitely has those big cigar, oily wrapper Maduro type of notes with a molasses. So if I took a Maduro wrapper with a molasses and like an undertone of pancake syrup that's not maple tree syrup, it kind of tastes like that. But it still tastes light. You're under 100 proof. There's no question you're under 100 proof. So because I did it before, I'll do it again. I'm going to add some more of my Booker's 2018-03 Kentucky Chew to it. The blue waxed Evans 3 is Evan Williams 23. It's 23-year-old Evan Williams. And it is liquid freaking gold. I sent out samples. My last sample group, everybody got Evan Williams 23. And because it's so good, I keep drinking it. So I have very limited supply of it left. Evan Williams 23 is really, really, really good. It is absolutely worth the MSRP. Yeah, Booker's. Booker's is great. It's great on its own, but sometimes it's great to use it to blend something to a profile, right? And so when you took a look at Booker's, right, you're going to get certain things, right? You're going to get like a high proof. You're going to get a predominant beam thought, you're going to have that oily type of, like everybody says, like nuts, right? Peanuts, whatever it is. I don't think it definitely is nutty. There's no question about that. Knob Creek, Booker's, whatever. It's more about the idea that you look at, if you were to go to a restaurant that serves peanuts where you can just crack them and throw them on the floor, right? You have the peanut shells. Instantly, to my mind, I think of like Brown Derby, and I think it's been changed now to some other name. And Five Guys, Burgers and Fries, they do it. And it's not the peanut that I'm eating, it's everything else. It's the waxy, peanut, oily things. Hey, Evan Williams is delicious. You can take anything. So it's really simple, Daniel, right? You can take anything and proof it. Proof it to what you want. Richie, you can take it anything, like even 86 Black Label. There and say, if you've never taken 80s Evan Williams Black Label and mixed it with Evan Williams White Label, you probably should. You probably should, because you're going from an 86 to 100. And if you're doing a jigger to jigger, you're going to move up, but you're not going to move all the way up. Just start playing with it. I mean, because 86, and if you buy a handle of 86 and a handle of Bottled and Bond, white label, I think you're all in at like, what, $50? You know how many blend drinks you can make with that? That's a lot of blends. So, and you know what's great about it? It's cheaper than going and buying something that someone blended. Blend it yourself. You go out there and look at like Joseph Magna cigar, which is delicious. Absolutely delicious. Cigar. I just did 2 of them tonight. And you know how much it cost me? Nothing. No markup. It's all MSRP. Yeah, just Black Label Evan Williams is your 86 proof. Your white label is the 101 bottled, or your 100 proof Bottled and Bond. And that's just the thing, right? You're going through and just pulling stuff to meet your palate. So you have to sit there and think, though. I'm not saying that it is just as easy as I say, right? I apologize. I made that sound really too easy. It's the idea of understanding, one, you have to know your palate, both on, let's say, a cigar, food, and whiskey. And when you have one of those 3, what do you want the other 2 to taste like? And then you think, okay, I really want this to taste like this. Okay, well, what do you have that you can blend to do that? Well, here, this really tastes good. It's really sweet. I really want it to taste a little bit spicier. Well, what can you add to it to proof it without changing the complexity of it? You're going to change it some. You're not going to get away from changing it some. But how do I still make it something that is in my wheelhouse for what I'm doing? And I think that's the big thing about it, is understanding how do you do that. It's just understanding your palate and what you pair with. I can tell you right now, there's 2 things that instantly come to mind with this without even thinking about it. I would put that on a wrapper cigar. I would also put that on a Midwest barbecue burnt ends. I wouldn't put it on a Kansas City. Even though they're actually Midwest, they're not considered the Midwest. Kansas City barbecue is delicious, but it ends up being just a smidge vinegary. This is not a vinegary one. This is one you want to get closer to those kind of things, right? Is Music Man jumping off? Take care, Chris. Yeah, so you could put this on a cigar and barbecue all day long. If you were having barbecue and you're like, hey, I want to have like a really good thing that I'm having barbecue to pair with and then match it with a cigar, this. I think you could bottle it and sell it that says, drink this with a cigar and barbecue. And people are like, hey, I like cigar and barbecue. I'm going to try that. And you're like, hey, that's all right. That guy must know something. No, that guy just has been drinking and smoking for a while and used to be a really fat guy that liked to eat all kinds of food. So. So, Richie, where are you located at? Our state, not like address. I take it that Ben must be north of the border, right? Yeah, I'm. Oh, yeah. There's nothing that pairs better with a barbecue than a cigar. I mean, are you kidding me? Barbecue sauce and a cigar? Yes, please. And then afterward, a nice fire. Richie lives in a different country. So you're California. We're at in California. So my corporate headquarters is in Sunnyvale. So I've been out in California forever. That's awesome. You know, that's the cool thing, Ben, is you always want to go out and reach out to different people and meet up. It's really easy to have a whole lot of banter on here, but you know, you want to reach out. I can tell you for sure, I am absolutely at some point driving down to Dusty's in Maryland. I have so we have a couple of different places in the U.S. that we have facilities. One of them is over in Sunnyvale / San Jose, and the other one is in Annapolis Junction, Maryland, which isn't that far from Glenbury. So, yeah, my closest city is Dallas, Texas, that you know. What? So I used to go there all the time when we our company. Oh, Rich Z, I'm going out there as soon as they open up everything to travel. I have a bunch of stuff I have to do out there in San Jose. So I do the engineering for the customer demo labs and go through and help the customers come through and understand what they do. So I will ping you the next time I know a solid date that I'm going to be in that area. But I'm very, very, very familiar with I give customer tours to the Bay Area. So how many speakeasies have you been to in San Francisco? Probably not as many as I have. And you know, San Francisco has like one of the best liquor stores in the world, literally in the world. You can sign up for their email address and they will send you an alert when they know something's coming in and what day it's coming in. San Francisco, there's still real speakeasies in San Francisco. You have to know a particular door that's in a weird, obtuse area that you would never go to and bang on it. And you go in and then you have a code and you have another one and you're told to pull a certain book to open a door to go into a back room and pay like some ridiculous price for something that's overpriced, but the whole experience is worth it. I've done it many times. I will hook you up with some information you need to know. Yeah, you know, so it's really funny. I was so upset. I was with a customer in Sunnyvale, and they sent me a notice that they were getting pappy. And it's not like I can bail on a customer. And like, can you hold one? I'm with a customer, and they're like, no, it's first coming. I was like, no, oh. So it's terrible. But now I have like all the Bevmos that always they always ping and all that stuff. So, that's where I used to be like really fortunate because, the great thing about California, probably the most predominant good thing about California, is that you can go out there and you don't have a sin tax. Yeah, so Ben, what it was is a speakeasy during Prohibition when alcohol was banned, or the liquor was banned anyway. You had to go through, and they had these like certain rooms where you could go there, but it was unidentifiable things, whether it be a knock, a code, a phrase, or something. And it was usually a two-step. So you had to do, let's say, X to get into this room, but you had to also be able to get to the point of Y to get to where the liquor was. And so speakeasies are still pretty common. So if you go on, I know for sure Hulu has it. If you go through and watch Neat, the story of bourbon, there was a guy in, I think it's Nashville, that actually opened up and redid his basement into a speakeasy. But there's a lot of secret speakeasies across the country, and San Francisco and Chicago both have some really kick-ass speakeasies. Yeah, but you know what? If you didn't have it, you couldn't get it. So they had to go to these different places to get it. Not everybody had the availability to even get it, let alone be able to sell it. So yeah, speakeasies are awesome because it feels like you're like some kind of like, I don't know, secret agent. I don't know. There's some kind of like I'm trying not to be like super old. So like James Bond, Maxwell Smart, whatever. There's like you feel like you're gonna pull off your shoe and use a rotary dial phone and call Agent 99 and be all kind of funny with it. Yeah. No, it was more about the idea of being able to go through and get to the stuff, because if you weren't making it, and quite honestly, you went through that time period where you had a lot of distillation processes that were illegal. So that was what. Either way, it's just the idea of understanding that there's still speakeasies out there and they're pretty fun, but they're usually word of mouth. Richie, I'll get the information and send it to you for the one in San Francisco down by Green Street. And there's a really, really good little Italian restaurant down there. And the speakeasy isn't very far from where they do the, what is it? Well, I'm sure they're not doing it now because everybody's on like this captive, stay in your home, never go anywhere and do anything fun again thing. So, but what is that show? What's the Richie? Are you familiar with the show downtown where they have like the ginormous hats? They have the hats that are like literally like 15 feet long, and it's like, oh, I'll think of it in a second. I just can't come up with it right now. I know exactly where it's at though. Now, you guys are being pretty funny. Depending on what day it is on the 101, that could be like 10 miles. I'm incredibly familiar with the 101, whether it be in LA or up in San Francisco or down by San Bruno. So there might have been oh, Francisco would have probably been something that I would have said about maybe 8 to 10 years ago. But man, it's just changed. It's like not even the same place that I used to take everybody and go to. Like I know San Francisco. I'll be honest with you. I know San Francisco and I know London uh, and Stockholm. So there's certain places that I'm pretty familiar with that I've been to a lot. So up until COVID came, I was an 85% traveler international. Um, the whole idea of doing this is just to get out and communicate and spend time talking to people that I normally was doing just as I was out. So I've always been out with, you can't go wrong with Santa Cruz. I would pick Santa Cruz every day of the week over San Fran. I mean, hell, they shot the Lost Boys there. Are you kidding me? You have the roller coaster, you have the park on the beach, you have the pier, you have decent surf, and you're not far away from better surf. And Santa Cruz is pretty awesome. Rich Z, are you sipping anything? Yes. Yeah, Santa Cruz is nice. I've been there many, many, many times. I took my wife out there. Actually, I think I've taken every one of my family members there. Oh, Jack Daniel's Barrel Proof Rye. I'm telling you right now, we need to figure out some kind of like sample exchange, Richie, because I need to have some Jack Daniel's Barrel Proof Rye. I know I'll never find it, but there's some things I have that I know you can't get. Yeah, you'll have to hit me up. DM me on Messenger. We'll figure something out. I know I have some stuff that you'd like to go figure out. Yeah, we'll figure something out. So what's up, Ben and James? James, you're UK, right? So it's 118 here, so it's 618 there. I know that because I deal with the UK all the time. I'll tell you what, it's really a funny story, right? So you'll appreciate this if you're James, are you in London? So I'm asking if he's in London because I was in London for a while at the time, for the last 10 years. I was like, man, I just want to have a cigar and a bourbon and a nice place that I can smoke and relax and not really worry about it too much. And so it's really funny, right? So I ended up at this particular place that gives you a 7-day pass to come in and just kind of hang. And at the end of that 7 days, your time's up. And if you come in again, you have to pay for it. But they also go through and give these for anybody that signed up for us for this one-time pass, you can win a membership. You can win different membership levels, 1 year, lifetime, whatever. So as silly as it sounds, won a membership. And I was like, yay, this is awesome. It's like the best place ever because there's very few places in London, downtown London area, that you can go and light up a cigar, smoke it, be controlled by the elements. You're outdoors, but you're covered and you get served. They literally, when you walk out there, you have like your ashtrays there, your cigar stuff you need, your matches, everything you need to do cigars and whiskey is there. And right after that, we got rid of our lab there. And I was like, no, because I won the membership. I got this notification that I won this membership. So I am an honorary member of the London Playboy Club. And I haven't been able to go back, but it is the best place in the world to watch football, European football, have a cigar, have a whiskey, and be served. It's amazing. So I am a lifetime member of the London Playboy Club. I'll send you pictures if you're interested. Yeah. Yeah. No, there's a chance I might go back to London. I give that to nobody. Hey, we've all been up all night. I think Ben's in the same time zone I am. I was on This Is My Bourbon podcast earlier. I was on the mash bill last night, and somewhere in the middle of it all, I actually work. There's barrel strength or toasted barrel strength. Yeah, he's not wrong. Matter of fact, I think behind me, I have Michter's limited release toasted barrel finished sour mash. For me, the toasted barrels are really simple, right? They're like these toasted marshmallows. It just depends on what their proof is and what their mash bill is. But yeah, I almost always get a toasted marshmallow, some kind finish. If I can find anything toasted, I get it. I think toasting is like one of those things that they need to spend more time doing. And I think the thing that you get with a marshmallow, right? Because everybody has toasted a marshmallow. And all right, James, next time I go. So I do know for a fact I do have to go there eventually. Yeah, definitely, Richie. The older Michter's toasted. The only one I have right now is this one. I've had a bunch of them. But finding them is not the easiest thing in the world. I actually had a guy in Kansas City order them to his bar to send to me. So if you're ever looking at like of the ones I've ever been to, one of the areas that has probably one of the best barrel pick selections I've ever seen is a place called Lucas Liquor. It's Lukas Liquor out of it's just outside of Kansas City in a place called like Lee Summit. And their barrel pick selection is as big as most people's liquor stores. So the new Master's Keep is going to be toasted barrel. I'll have the only way I'll get that is I'll have to drive down to Woodinville. Ohio's controlled. I'm 99.9% sure the guy in charge of it is a douche. I think he likes playing like whiskey god and saying, hey, you know what, these are great things and they're willing to give it to us for MSRP, but I want to do a lottery. And it's annoying. Listen to the Master Drum, he'll say the same thing. He just has been around long enough on the tubes to have the Patreon level to be able to go buy it however he wants, and has enough connection and profile to be able to go out and solicit some of the distillers. And he should, because let's face it, Jason C is really, really good. He spends a lot of time. He has a lot of background into design. His show is great. It's very appealing, and he has a lot of knowledge. So I'm a Mash and Drum fan for sure. If you're not following the Mash and Drum, you should. Jason's a good dude. He's just a good human. You won 3 lotteries. What the hell? You need to go buy like a Powerball or something. Yeah. Well, you know, James, for sure, you guys have stuff there that I buy stuff. There may be some secondhand places over there that kind of inflate, but they don't inflate everything. Some stuff you can find pretty close to MSRP. So I don't buy anything on the secondhand inflated, but I'll buy something that I know that is within a $10 to $20 MSRP range, and I'll buy it all day long. So I actually actively order stuff from, I'll tell you the place if you can go there and actually want to score some cool stuff, Stockholm, Sweden. Their liquor places are usually loaded. And it's weird. I've never won a lottery since Ohio's been doing a lottery. So, well, I think that's the thing, right, Ben? Everybody's going to bring something different that you would expect. You is the notes that you would find in drinks and bourbons that are something that would be outside traditional of something maybe you had. And then how do you change it? Not because you think it's bad. I don't ever change something for the most part that I think is bad. I change it because I'm trying to figure out how do I make it. You know, I try to keep up on scotches as much as I can, and I do drink scotch. But I know that if I'm on a bender, right? A bender for me is anything that whatever I start my day with, I stick with. If I start with a bourbon, I stay with a bourbon. If I start with a scotch, I stay with a scotch. And it's a profile. But you have to do the same thing with scotch that we're talking about tonight, right? You have to introduce it, bring it in, experience it, let it set, reintroduce it, and work your way through it, right? Because that was to your bourbon. I would expect to have to do the same thing to their scotch. So I keep up as much as I can on it. You know, I'm a full-time dad, grandpa, working guy. But at the same time, you know, there is discussion, but you know what? You know, the one thing that's intriguing, right, when you look at a scotch, so you have people that are like bourbon guys that are like okay with like the Glens, because the Glens aren't too far off of a bourbon. And then you have the scotch guys that are in the Glens that aren't too far off of a bourbon. Have you ever taken a Glenlivet with a High West campfire? Yeah, you know, no one in my family, my mom and dad are both deceased and all this stuff, but none of them had gray hair. So I'm somewhere in that whole entire like West region. So yeah, I am a grandpa. Right, and that's it is Daniel. I'm the same way. There's if I'm on a bender, like I can remember right now, probably one of the first things when I first started dabbling with whiskey, besides the fact that I was a gentleman jack guy, because let's face it, it was really smooth, and I was doing it with chilled neat, so it was even smoother. Um, Actually, the very first thing I ever had that I was like, "Wow, that is amazing," was a Macallan 28. I loved it. I didn't have an expense budget. I ordered almost every time I went out. And then I went to Oban and I loved it. And so I've predominantly been, so in work world, I was in the scotches, but in my personal world, I was in the bourbons because I was reconnecting with my brother. And so I have a wheelhouse for both. But in the past, couple years, I've been predominantly just, American whiskey. Yeah, that's the thing, Richie, is that I don't have a lot of predominant gray. None of my parents did. So, um, now granted, I'm not I'm not the same age as you. I'm a little bit younger. But the thing is that I started younger in life, not by accident. I had no accidents. My wife, my kids, everything was planned. But I was one of those weird guys that had that stupid romantic story of an elementary crush that turned into a high school sweetheart. They got married young and had kids soon after. So um, I've been I've actually been married for 30 years this year. So I thought it was I was applauding the other day when someone had their 15 year, and in my mind I was like, yeah, you got 15 years to go. So, but 15 years is no slouch nowadays. I've actually been with my bride as from time we first started dating, which we've never broke up since we started dating, all the way to marriage, and now it's been 32 years. So, Dana, when you're talking about like single malts, so I think one of the things that's really cool that you can take. Oh, I just did a couple reviews of things that were Boo Rise. Thanks. Yeah, no, it's not every day that you find someone that's as young as I am. So I'm 49, and I've been with her for 32 years, and I've been married for 30 this year. And no, my oldest kid is not older than that. My oldest kid is only 27. So I just knew she was the one. But the single malt thing, right? So American single malt, there's some really good single malts out there. I would encourage you that if you like scotch and you like bourbon, so what's to stop you from putting a Glenlivet 12, for example, and a High West Campfire, and do a 2-to-1 mix of whatever is your favorite? Yeah, your 2-to-1 thing needs to be somewhere along the lines of, well, I prefer more of the scotch. Okay, we'll do 2/3 scotch, 1/3 American malt, or whatever. Play around with it. And that's the thing that I encourage people to do is figure out, hey, I like this. I think there's too many people that get on this bandwagon of I'm a Scotch guy, F bourbon. Well, I'm a bourbon guy, F Scotch. Listen, you can't say that if you get on a feed and say, hey, listen, I tried this Woodford American malt and I thought it was amazing. Well, then you probably have a hint of Scotch notes in you. So what's the deal with not taking a easy to find 12-year-old Scotch? Because listen, there's not tons of 12-year-old bourbons you're going to find at the same price you're going to find a 12-year Scotch. Scotches you can find all day long with age. Bourbons with age, yeah, you're going to pay out the nose. So take that nasty old musty whatever it is and mix it. Yeah, infinity bottles are great. I have no beef with an infinity bottle, but just going through and figuring out your profile. I'm not saying to do it because I said to do it. I'm saying that these are things you need to think of. I like this taste, but I like this taste too. Well, which one do you like more? Okay, I like whatever one I like more. I'm going to do more of it and less of the other, but I'm still going to mix it and do it as a small thing. I'm not saying like pour like 4 or 5 ounces. I'm saying like 1 to 2. Just pour like little small ones. I'm not a sugar guy. I have them. I don't really like dealing with the whole clumsy blah, blah, blah. I can pour this and be disciplined. I don't have a problem with that. So I've graduated to the point that I'm just going to have Booker straight up. And I'm at the bottom of my Kentucky Chew. So I always keep a couple Bookers on the bar. And usually the drinking bar. So everything behind me is a drink. So I'll put it in the same thing that I blended with the Chew. Yeah, I keep Bookers. I'm a Bookers guy. I have a bunch of them. I'm a bunch of different things. I like doing a lot of different things, but Bookers is usually where I'm at. Thanks, Richie. I appreciate it. It's just the idea of getting out and meeting people and seeing people and trying to talk. Because if you're not willing to spend, if I would have done the hour that I anticipated, I would have missed some of the people that I had in the UK. So I got to remember that there's some people that I have in different time zones. So I just have to figure out how to reach them. So I figure like if I can do this like late-ish night, then I'm doing that. I'm on my nightcap too. I have like just probably about 10 or 15 more minutes. Oh, I've been drinking water. I won't hit the floor, trust me. Dusty Dan knows this, and I say this all the time. I was like, I have a particular set of skills. And so there is a little, I do have water. I'll do this for you. But I have like this weird drinking regimen. And anybody that knows me personally knows I do it. No matter how much I've drank, I refuse to go to bed until I've drank at least a certain amount of water. So I have this big glass that's upstairs. And to not confuse everybody, whether it's liters or quarts or pints or whatever, probably the easiest thing to say, I guess if you're talking about UK, Canada, and the US, I try to drink at least 4 pints of water before I go to bed, no matter what I do. Yeah, most of your barrel proofs are really, really good. If you get a barrel proof or a cask strength or anything like that, that you're like, wow, that's really good, but it's a little bit too hot for me, just throw it over an ice mold or a couple of drops of water. I don't ever do more than 3 or 4 drops of water. I have a limestone and I have a Texas one. I have a shale water, limestone, and all those things. Trying to figure that out, right? So it'll open up, it'll calm down for you. If it's still too hot, just pour it in a shaker with some ice, give it a shake, and then pour it back out. It'll chill it enough to take that edge off. Yeah, I talked to Dusty earlier tonight. He had to go in at 3 o'clock this morning. So I told him, I said, hey, you don't need to jump on because he was going to jump on early. And I said, yeah, you don't need to do that. We all need our sleep. And he's going to work. So yeah, I talked to him. It's been one of those things where he's like, so I don't know if you did the dialogue the other night. It was a bourbon that had been under a certain process. And so that's why I'm doing like a process right now for him directly. Because he wanted me to hit something to his overall mash bill towards a food product. So see, if I'm in the UK right now, iron root. Nice. Real nice. Yeah, I'm on my last pour. Mine was just a chew. Then I'll go upstairs and suck down a whole bunch of water. I just have that thought process that it's, well, you think about this, right? So limestone is a very, very deep rock sediment that's in the bottom of the soil. So I can remember I went to, and this would be a really, Richie, do you do any kind of wine at all? So limestone water is traditionally the main water that is used when you're looking at Kentucky water, right? So Kentucky water is what's used when they do all of their water process towards their liquor, whether it be bourbon or whatever. And Kentucky is mostly bourbon. So you have limestone rock that's in the sediment at the base of the soil. So most of your water that you pull from Kentucky and certain regions of the Midwest has this really predominant limestone. And if you've had limestone, you'll understand it. But if you haven't, you wouldn't. There's a winery, my favorite winery, period, in California. It's actually close to Santa Cruz. It's called Pichetti. It's Picchetti. It's in the Santa Cruz Mountains up on Montebello Boulevard. They are the oldest vineyard still running. And the thing that's interesting about them is that they didn't have to worry about cutting down their vines for prohibition because they served as sacramental to the churches. So they got to keep their old root. So when you go and you buy something that says, what's it say, old vine, a lot of times you'll go up into like Napa or something, they'll say old vine. Old vine, the only way they was able to pull off old vine is they were giving their wine away to the church. So if they were doing that, they didn't get their vines cut down. So anytime you see anything that says old vine, it means it's coming. So the individual teardrops are very small in diameter, so they're not rooting down really deep. But the old vines, which were really, really big, were rooting really deep, and they were getting into the shale. And when you get into the shale and rock base and some of those areas, you are getting into the limestone base. So Paquette Winery, anything that you get from Paquette that happens to be Leslie Estate or their local, if they're sourcing it, it's not the same. But if you get their local Leslie Estate stuff, it's from their vineyard, which is notes like unbelievable. You're like licking rock, but it's limestone. So the same thing happens in the bourbon world, right? So you have Kentucky, Ohio, a bunch of those areas are big limestone states. And so with that, you pull that note of that earth. So you'll hear something, oh, that's earthy. Well, it can be earthy. You're talking about dirt. But are you talking about dirt or are you talking about dirt and rock? The limestone is significantly different than just dirt. Shale is just the rock formation, how it's like this. Shale is just rock. So, but when you go through and do that, right? So you can pull that shape, that overall limestoney thought when you're in the Kentucky bourbon world. If you take, because you can buy Kentucky water. The thing is you're really just getting the water that has a limestone presence, which is most of the Kentucky water. They have a heavy limestone presence. And that's what makes it different, a little bit different, right? So you'll find if you watch Neat on Hulu, right? One of those things they always talk about, the guy, especially the guy from Buffalo Trace, he talks about, the limestone, the rock, and the water that comes from the base of the limestone. So yeah, you just go through and do that, and then you can get that limestone water and you do it. So I can remember the first time that I went out to Paquette. I was up there with what they call a Smiler. There's this dude that was the guy that worked up at the bar, and he was your your guy that was doing all this stuff, and he was pouring for me, and I was like, "Do you guys have limestone up here?" He's like, "How did you pull limestone?" I was like, "I'm from Ohio." He's like, "Absolutely," and I was like, "Yeah, this definitely got limestone." So just and I think that's the thing, right? Is just understanding your region. What is it about your region you like? And figuring it out, right? It doesn't mean that what you were drinking that you like isn't right. Whatever I want to do, whether it be smoke, eat, whatever, you can still like it just plain. This Woodinville, I would drink it straight all day long. But if I wanted to go through and move it up and do things, take care, James. Have a good day. I know you're getting ready to probably head off to work. Cheers, bloke. Look forward to talking to you again. So I'll go through and I'll plan some lives now that I have my live verification and just try to go through and figure out some stuff, whether I do a skirmish or I just end up talking, whatever. Where are you at, Richie? You almost, is Ben heading out? Ben. Hey, Ben. Yep. Take care, bud. Might not last till midnight. Yeah, I think it's about almost 2 here, but hey, like I told Richie earlier, I have a particular set of skills. So, in closing, Woodinville in the skirmish obviously won. Both to the eyes, it looked older, it looked richer. On the nose, it had a much bigger nose than the XO did. On the second pour, it was even more incredible. It brought out these big cigar leaves mixed with somewhere along the lines of a melted black licorice kind of port. It was less it was less cumbersome to build the Woodinville to a cigar blend than it was to try to build the XO to a cigar blend. We got there, but I had to do more ingredients with the XO because the XO was lacking proof and flavor, where the Woodinville was just lacking proof. So challenge yourself, challenge your senses, figure out what you like, and then figure out what you want to pair it with. And when you do that, then you have this availability to make something that you like, whether you're eating, smoking, or whatever it is you're doing. Just don't be afraid to mix that. Trust your palate, trust yourself, and yeah. So this was actually, yeah, thanks, Ben. I appreciate it. Yeah, this was my first uh, actual YouTube live. I've had some weird Instagram lives and all that stuff that I published to YouTube. Some of them I took down because I didn't even know I did them. So, yeah, I think that's the thing, right, Richie? You got it. And I hope that's what I bring to this channel, right? That's what I want to bring to the tube community is if blending is the big thing, right? If we like stuff that has different profiles, why not blend that? I don't need somebody to tell me, well, I think this will be this. When I have a thought process that I know certain things that I like this for this, and I like this for this. Well, would that pair? That's what I want people to realize that the stuff you're drinking that you like is correct. But don't be afraid to change it based on what you're having it with. And that's what I hope I try to bring to the community. I try to bring to the idea of whiskey drinking, bourbon drinking, even scotch drinking. I have a segment coming up where we're going to actually do a scotch preview where I have someone from the UK that's doing scotch. I'm doing bourbon. And it will actually be that those get poured together. So, hey, Rich is a wrench because I don't know that there's very many people out there that are as committed to the whiskey tube world than Richie. And I appreciate him being a wrench and paying attention to it and understanding it because we all know in the tube world, you need somebody to make sure you don't have some fool coming in saying something that can, take down your channel. So live feeds of when they're going to be and that stuff, you'll always be a wrench. So having said that, I know it's late. We've been on here for a long time. Campbelltown cash strength. I can tell you right now, Daniel, I don't know if you're a cigar smoker, I can absolutely throw you without a doubt on something the other day. I was doing a pairing here at the house at HQ with my brother, and he has a very particular set of tastes. And we went through and I was like, well, I think you should do this. And I'm telling you right now, you can do some taste, but the thing you have to know is you have to do your profile. So thanks, Richie. I appreciate it. Daniel will be in. This ain't the only feed I'll do, so we'll be in contact and we'll figure it all out. So having said that, I'm at the 3 hour and 27 minute mark now. The skirmish between Washington, Woodinville, in Canada with the XO. Canada had a Cognac finish. Woodinville had a port finish. Eyes, what did it look like? Nose, what did it smell like? Taste, what did it taste like? Second pour, every phase of it, Woodinville won. I blended them. I took some time blending them. Woodinville, if you're trying to make a cigar blend, Woodinville finish, you can just throw with some Bookers if you like a high proof. If you don't like a high proof, just stay on it high proof. I did a triple blend, and we talked about it earlier in the video. Look at it, watch it. If you enjoy it, hit the subscribe now that I'm verified and I have the opportunity to do this. All my stuff's in. And I look forward to bringing more ideas and more thoughts to like weird things and figuring out a way to hit your palate. So I appreciate everybody that was on tonight. You guys are great. I promise that there's more to come, and I enjoy you all. So cheers to you. Cheers to figuring out what you like and making it better for you. So this drink's to you. Cheers, and I'll talk to you all pretty soon.